Hey everyone, I'm Ramona and this is Huda. We're both designers and practicing design thinkers at IBM Watson in data analytics. In this workshop, we'll be showing you why design thinking is essential in creating impactful products, especially in open source space.
Just to give you some background about us, part of our values as designers is advocating for design and its users. A lot of times, users have no choice and they're stuck working with applications that are not very intuitive or easy to use, making their tasks more difficult. I've worked on products that were designed by developers and they were catering to the ease of building the application versus building it so that it's easy for the user. So when applications are being built, designers have a responsibility to advocate for the users and really investigate and explore how we can build a design for them, the user.
So when Huda and I both learned about open source, it sounded like a magical place where anyone in the world could contribute and maintain software freely. It made sense. You're building for people by the people, right? But reality is that sometimes software doesn't look so magical. So many open source softwares are made with little or no contribution from a professional designer, which leads to hard to use interfaces. There are thousands of cool open source projects that are poorly designed and limits who can use them. So you might ask yourself, why aren't designers contributing to them? That's a really good question. Like complicated softwares, open source can be a bit overwhelming for non-technical people. So open source itself isn't designed for designers. It's dev-centric, so it's pretty intimidating for people like us, like designers. So our intention today is to help equip you with the right design tools to sprinkle into your open source contributions and also advocate for design.
So let's dive into a scenario where design thinking tools could help us solve a real world challenge. Right now, IBM is currently working on a Linux Foundation project designed to help farmers in India effectively harvest their crops and conserve resources like water. These farmers are presented with daily challenges like not having stable access to Wi Fi, limitations in being able to read and write, among other barriers. This is a real life scenario that affects people globally. At IBM, we're in the middle of designing and proposing a better solution for it. And keep in mind, the end solutions are not always perfect. Part of the design journey is always iterating and improving design to always be better than the previous version.
So based on this project, we wanted to recreate this scenario with everyone and see what we can come up with in this 1 hour workshop. So let's start with a scenario. Imagine you're stationed in India. You've been asked to improve the way farmers farm. Currently, India supports 15% of the world's population, but only has 4% of the world's water resource. This is super concerning right now because the majority of farming totally depends on the rain. So imagine in this scenario, you've been tasked to develop a solution to help farmers water their crops efficiently. What would be the first step in your development process? Please use the Discord thread to submit your response. You have 2 minutes. Okay, awesome. Let's take a look at some of the comments. Okay, it looks like we have one comment. Sorry, it's being blocked by my... Okay, so talking to farmers. That is a great response. And it actually goes into one of our first lessons, which is yes. The answer is yes, empathizing with your user. This is usually the first step that we take when we're design thinking. So awesome job. You just unlocked your first lesson and you did it correctly. So whenever you receive a problem, always think about your users and what they're going through. So you're maybe thinking, what is design thinking? Really simply, design thinking is a philosophy and a set of tools to help you solve problems creatively. When a company is trying to create something new, when a team is trying to solve a complex problem, you can use design thinking to help you get to that solution. So design thinking specifically focuses on the human-centered design aspect of problem solving. It's a human-centered approach that focuses on empathizing, figuring out who you're designing for, what their needs are, and then helping solve that problem or need. A lot of our problem solving techniques before design thinking was about, well, we have this technology, let's just use it to build it for someone. Design thinking specifically helps you think about the problem from the customer or user's perspective. And in this example, if I put myself in the farmer's shoes, I would wish that there was a cheap and easy way to know when to water my crops. So there are 5 steps to every design thinking process. 1, empathizing with your users. 2, defining the problem. 3, ideating a solution. 4, rapid prototyping. And 5, testing out our prototype. Today we'll be focusing on the first 3. And for these next lessons, we'll be guiding you through most of the activities using the farmer scenario as our focus. So as designers, when dealing with problems like this, our first step is to normally set up an interview with our users and take notes on what our users are doing, thinking, and feeling. And the intention is to record our users' everyday pains and to advocate for them throughout the entire development process. So we can practice this together. I'm going to hand it off to Huda to kick us off.
Thanks, Ramona. So our first activity will consist of us doing an empathy map. So what is an empathy map? This is a tool a team will use to help understand their users or customers on a deeper level. An empathy map can represent a group of users or a customer segment. And an organization can have multiple customer segments or personas they focus on, and they can build out multiple empathy maps for each persona or customer segment. Empathy maps are important because it helps us identify users' pain points, potential gaps and opportunities, as well as better understand the end user. This is usually a collaborative activity, so by the end of it, we can align with all of our stakeholders on a shared understanding of the user or customer segment, as well as their various pain points. This helps us prioritize which opportunities of the user journey we should focus on. Many times, UX designers carry a responsibility to advocate for those users and as well as innovate on behalf of their end users. But to do that, we need a deeper understanding of the end user. Empathy maps, they're a good start to do that. They focus on what the customer is thinking, feeling, seeing, hearing, saying, and doing. So let's try this together. So if everyone can visit the Google Drive link and open the empathy map that was provided, you can either create a copy of it or download it and print it and work off of that one. You can start to take notes in each of those categories and sections, and you can take a picture or a screenshot and post it on the Discord channel when you're ready. You can base your responses based on a recording that we'll play shortly, and I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to first get the downloads. So normally we would do this activity all together in one place, but just due to some limitations we have technically, we're going to do it individually and just share our responses.
All right, I think we can go to the next activity. So for this project, we've sent out a couple of user researchers to India to learn more about the farmers' day-to-day life and their situation. It's important that you listen to this since it would create a foundation for the next activities. So here's a 2-minute recording of their conversation. Listen carefully and take notes on the empathy map when you hear cues about what the farmer's feeling and what they're thinking and also doing. We couldn't share the true recording of this, so this is a mock version. By the way, if you aren't able to access the empathy map, feel free to just take a piece of paper and write down what you think that person, just like making notes while we're playing the recording for y'all.
Hi, Arjun. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your background?
I'm 26 years old. I have a wife and 4 children. I am a farmer in my village of Karnataka, India.
Did you go to school?
I went to elementary school and started reading and writing. But now, sometimes I feel like I struggle to read and write.
What do you do on a usual day on the farm?
I wake up, turn on the TV or radio to listen to the weather forecast. If they say it'll rain this week, I won't water my crops. Instead, I'll collect rainwater in my well for later. If it says there is no rain, I collect rainwater from the pond nearby, or I will pump water from the well to water our crops. Depending on the schedule and weather, I plan my daily activities like watering or harvesting my plants.
What makes your job challenging?
Water. India's weather is extremely dry. I am feeling very worried and stressed that my farm hardly has any water and my crops are in danger. I am always confused when to water my plants because the weather is so unreliable. Some days it rains, most days it doesn't. I also don't know how much water I should give to my different crops. I am running out of water now and my crops are slowly dying.
What are you currently doing to resolve this problem?
Everything. I learn about the weather from the TV or radio station. I ask my elders because they have lots of experience, but they say the weather has changed. Nothing is helping. I am always thinking, should I water today or save the water for later? It's not easy.
Do you have a phone? What do you use it for?
Our family has a cheap Android phone. We don't use it that much. We only use it to take some photos or call a friend. We also use it for a local banking app. I get most of my information from our radio station.
Do you use any farming technology?
I have heard about new farming technologies that provide crop and watering advice, but these are very complex and expensive products, which are not affordable for me.
Those are all my questions. Thank you for your time, Arjun.
You are welcome.
Cool.
So
So I'm
now,
going to talk to Huda. Sorry, go for it, Huda.
thanks. I was just going to say, so now that you've heard the recording and have a better sense of the farmer's challenges, let's take 3 minutes to finish filling out the empathy map. Try to identify any fears, obstacles, or frustrations the farmer might be having, as well as their wants, hopes, and dreams, and identifying what their pains and gains are. So go ahead and add in your points and make notes if you see any emerging patterns here. So 2 minutes left. Remember to try to put yourself in the farmer's shoes and understand what they're experiencing and feeling in the situation. If you've already filled out the empathy map, please post some screenshots or photos in the Discord thread. So time's up. Sorry, let me just double check. I think there's 1 more minute, right, Ramona?
Yeah, there's 1 more minute.
1 more minute. I see 1 response. Please, people, post any responses you can of what you think user is saying, thinking, doing, and feeling.
Cool. Time's up. Okay, so it seems like we got a lot of responses, so that's great. Thanks, y'all. I'm going to switch over to Discord. Conrad, if you're on the call, are people able to go off mute and describe what they've posted?
I think we would have to invite them on, so it wouldn't be an easy process.
Okay, that's fine. We're going to randomly choose somebody's. Okay, Stony95. So it looks like for says, the farmer has a wife, 4 children, learned to read and write, but struggles at the moment, relies on TV and radio for the weather forecast, has a phone in the family, digital farming products are expensive. That's great. Thinks does not know how much water should be given to the plants. Does listen to the radio for the weather forecast, depending on what he decides to either do, water plants or collect water. He feels that water is limited and stressed and in danger. Great. Great work, guys. Looks like we have a lot of great responses here. So I'm going to keep going. So as you can see, right now the farmer, we did this activity as well, but it's pretty in line with what your response is. The farmer is feeling frustrated because they don't know when they'll have water for their crops. They feel fear due to the unreliability of the weather and success of the harvesting the crops. They're seeing uncertainty, and hearing the news on the radio is not necessarily reliable. And regardless of all that, they continue to farm and sometimes potentially waste resources, and they're running out of water. Okay, so moving on.
So our next activity is creating an as-is scenario map. So what is an as-is scenario map? This is another framework that designers use to map and document our understanding of the current user experience. We build out the current journey to identify the problems and opportunities to see if we're focusing on the right improvements. When there is a new project to deliver, it's important for our team to align on what they already know and note what they don't know. We can take some of our findings from the empathy map and plug them into our as-is scenario map. So for this activity, you can find the as-is scenario map document in the Google Drive as well. You can also either create a copy of it or download the file and work off of that. You can also use paper and pencil and try to fill that in. Afterwards, you can, similarly to the last activity, post a photo on the Discord thread. And now you can just take a couple minutes to open up your scenario map. So in the scenario map, we have 4 rows labeled phases, doing, thinking, and feeling. With this, we'll basically map out the current user journey in the perspective of the farmer. So start with listing out what the farmer is doing, thinking, and feeling, and then add phases as they become clear. For some examples of phases might be they're planning their day, they're watering their crops, they're spraying or harvesting crops, and so on. So take 4 minutes to add in your points. take a screenshot or photo, and you can paste in your as-is scenario map into the Discord channel when you're done. Try to look for any patterns emerging or similar themes for each phase and activity. So we're gonna start the timer now and give you 4 minutes for this.
Okay, we have 3 more minutes left. Okay, we have 1 more minute left. Awesome. So let's review the as-is scenario that we've created. I'm going to give you guys a minute just to finish pasting them into the Slack thread, and then we'll go through them together. So these are frameworks that we actually use in our day-to-day job. They're accessible under IBM's website, under I can post the link later. It's part of the Design IBM Thinking toolkit. and they have like a various amount of different frameworks or templates that you guys can follow similar to this. We've just created our own variation. So let's take a look at the Discord really quick. I'm going to scroll down, and thank you for posting. Okay, phases. Get information, decide on activities, water crops, collect water. So if we're doing, the farmer is listening to the radio, checks the weather, on the phone, checks the crop's health, the water reservoir, what the farmer is thinking. They're considering the state of the crop and the state of the water reservoir. They consider the crop health, crop weather forecast. When they're actually watering their crop, they're thinking, should I water my crops today? And then when they're actually collecting water, they're thinking they should be collecting water. So this uncertainty really puts a lot of pressure on the farmer and makes them rely on their intuition a lot, which may not be the best thing to rely on for things that are out of their control. But they're feeling, so they're just unsure about what to do with their crops, and they hope that this water will be useful soon. This is great. Thank you so much for posting this. We really appreciate it. We've also created our own, which is really similar to the one that was just read. I'm going to let Huda take a stab at it, though.
Sure. Okay, so just to walk through this one as well. So the phase that we defined in this one is checking the weather and planning their day. And then they would go and try to manage their resources, and then they would tend to their crops, and then finally they would harvest their crops. So it's just a little bit different than what we just went over in the other example. So yeah, what they're doing, this one's pretty similar. They're listening to the radio, checking the TV for weather, collecting their water if rain falls in the well, or pumping water from the pond to water their crops. And then they're also picking weeds, spraying pesticides, and doing farming activities like that. And then they're also picking crops and selling them. So it's a little bit different if you can see from the other responses as well, which is okay. Like one thing here is a lot of people will have perfectly correct responses, but you might not think of all the different scenarios. So now if you go over these two scenarios, you have a more clear view of this as-is journey, and you can see how they're doing and feeling during each of the activities on this journey. But just looking at these two maps that we went over, you can see there's two different perspectives here. Some ideas are similar, and there's also some new perspective added as well. So normally we do this collaboratively, and we try to refine it in a manner that we can align on, because we can't always tackle every part of the scenario. And we try to decide on okay, this is the section we're actually going to focus on. So in this case, we can see some opportunities here. The opportunities here could be being able to provide more reliable information with or without stable internet access, being able to simplify language and maybe using visual language, and by centralizing all sources of information on the weather forecast, as well as using easier vocabulary, or not using vocabulary at all, and just using visual communication with people who have trouble reading or using technology. Also, we can learn to understand growth stages to see how much water is required per stage, trying to provide smart accommodations. So I guess we can move on to the next activity here. So based on everything we've learned in the last two activities, let's start our next activity, which is ideation. So now that we've identified the current scenario and understand the gaps, problems, and opportunities, let's ideate on a few solutions. So in this activity, we want to hear everyone's unique perspective on the user and the problem. So everyone should contribute their ideas and solutions. So for this activity, we want to start off going to the Discord channel and write in the thread some possible solutions in a couple words or short sentences. So let me just paste the thing for the Discord channel. and this way we can go over everyone's replies. So this is like a very brief solutioning stage of let's have a big picture, a big idea of what we think the solution might look like. So, based on everything you've heard, go to the Discord channel and can you think of a solution right off the bat that we can try to implement to help solve this problem?
Thanks, Huda. I'm going to set the timer for 2 minutes.
Also, sorry, we're at the 1 minute mark, so 1 minute left. But I just wanted to add, don't think about the feasibility on how feasible this solution might be, or even consider how we can make this done. Just shoot through the moon and focus on the biggest ideas and try to build off of each other's ideas as well. Because I see some people are typing. If you see another idea and you feel like you want to jump off of it, that's totally fine as well. So avoid talking about implementation or any of those types of details. Just talk about the solution idea that you have. Please.
I'm going to stop the timer. It looks like we have a lot of responses, so thanks everyone. I'm going to ask everyone to read through some of the responses and put a thumbs up on the ones that they like, and then we'll start reading them out loud in the meantime.
Yeah, so this is basically like voting. So we want to give everyone 5 votes, and to vote, just put a thumbs up on any of the ideas that people posted of the ones that you think are the best for this.
Huda, I'm just going to read some out loud because these are really awesome.
Sure.
Okay, so better weather forecast sent to their mobile. That makes sense. Hydrogen-fueled electrical generators, the water that otherwise is a waste could be used for irrigation. That's a very good idea. Getting in contact with government bodies and NGOs in the area, forming a local community with other farmers. I love that. That's like a great crowdsourcing technique too. They can share all their information together. They did mention that there are farmers who can intuitively know that when the rain is falling, so maybe they can share their knowledge that way. Creating an Android app that recommends the optimal action: collect water, water plants, but also explains the recommendation in terms of the domain, the precipitation, drought storage, crop growth with pictograms. That is a great idea. And seems in line with some of what we were thinking, which we'll show later on. Person has access to a phone, perhaps an app where the user can input track their water reserves and crop health, types of crops, and the app can use weather forecasts to help them give simple suggestions like use water reserves today or collect rain today might be helpful. Yes, this seems really in line with the previous response, so amazing. More education, information, correct irrigation volume for each crop. That's a great answer as well. Okay, so I see people are starting to vote. We're going to go back to the presentation. Okay. So it looks like the top, the top voted ones were the second last one and the third last one. So thanks, y'all. This is a really good transition to what we were thinking as well. So I'm going to give it back to you, Huda, to close us off with our to be journey.
Sure, thank you. So let's see how we can incorporate these solutions into the future journey of our farmer. So, we could use this one that says person has access to a phone, perhaps an app where the user can input or track their water reserves and crop health for the types of crops, and the app can use weather forecasts to help them give simple solutions like use water reserves today, collect rainwater, might be helpful. So that one got the most votes, so we can do something like that to see how we can incorporate this into the future journey of our farmer. So the next activity here is the to be scenario. So after an ideation session, we normally do this activity where we create the to be scenario map. To be scenario maps help us envision and align on a better future for our users. Now that we have created an as a scenario map and have also come up with some ideas and solutions, we need to see how they fit into an user's future journey. Do they still make sense and actually improve the user journey? A to be scenario map is a great framework to share with stakeholders to show how your design intent and get the overall team aligned. It also helps tell a more engaging story on what the team is envisioning. So just as an example, you can see here on the slide the outcome of the to be scenario map we did in this activity. Let me hand it back to Ramona to share more on that.
Sorry, y'all. We're having a bit of technical problems here.
That's okay. While you get that up, so this can also be used a way to really sell an idea. Sometimes you might not get buy-in, but when you do all of these activities, you can get better feedback from the team as well as get buy-in from the team to actually propose these solutions and actually work on them. Because just because you always have a good idea doesn't mean you get to work on it, right?
Yeah, so when our team at IBM did this activity, they proposed the idea of an app. So we know that our farmers usually have access to a phone, so a mobile app is a viable option. The idea is that we're thinking of creating an Android app that would give farmers accurate weather forecasts and track the moisture level of their soil. So during the ideation and research phase, the team found that the farmers can optimize their water usage by knowing exactly how much water each crop would need. So a berry plant doesn't need the same amount of water as a corn plant, and each plant requires different water consumptions. So the app would essentially sync up with an affordable soil moisture reader that prevents the farmers from overwatering their plants. So we have added the to be journey map handout in that kit or on the Google Drive link. So if you would like to try it out after the workshop, please feel free to. So after the to be scenario, we enter into our favorite stage, prototyping and testing. When we prototype, the goal is to rapidly test and validate our ideas. We want to see if our assumptions are true in a cheap and easy way. So for this project, the team did a paper prototype. We tried to simulate what each screen would look like in our app and then test it out with our users. It was really important at this phase to listen and watch for behavioral cues. So if we did find that the user is surprised or does something unexpected when they're using our prototype, we would note it down and iterate on the solution and then come back and test it again. So for this project, the team did around 4 to 5 iterations, and once we were confident with the prototype, we started building. So let's go through the solution that IBM team built. I'll start with the scenario. So imagine it's a scorching hot last few days, and Arjun the farmer hopes that rain will come soon. He hardly has water and his crops are in danger. The weather forecast for his city is given through the radio, and the chance of rain is really low. But he's unsure if he should spare his water or he should hold out a bit longer for the rain. So through a local event, Arjun learns about Liquid Prep, an app that provides real-time guidance on water for farmers. A soil sensor is required to detect the temperature and the soil humidity. So he purchases this sensor from the event and he downloads the app as soon as he gets home. So Arjun opens up this app and goes through the onboarding experience. Each slide is accompanied by an audio instruction, and it gives Arjun an overview about how Liquid Prep works. So after going through the onboarding experience, Arjun sees that the weather information, and is prompted to enter his crop. And he's pleased to see up-to-date weather information since he only gets weather information from the newspapers, TV, or radio, and sometimes his neighbor. Now he can check the weather anytime that he wants. And when he clicks to select his crop, he can easily and accurately select his type of crop by taking a photo of it or just saying the name. He is also prompted to select the stage of growth. And within the step, it was really important since the app would give him some type of guidance on how much he should water his plants at each stage of growth. Since the solution involved an IoT, a soil sensor, he is shown visually a visual tutorial on how to set it up. And after a few seconds, Arjun receives information for water recommendation, and he sees that he should wait 3 days before using any water because the rain is expected soon. So he can easily read the instructions using the visual legend. Of course, this is the happy fact, but we do have confidence in our app. So he does follow the advice and successfully saves water, and his crops are growing again. So great work. You made it. You've done you have exercised the 4 new design thinking steps. Remember when we first asked you at the beginning of the workshop what would be your first step in the development process? This time you guys will say empathy map. So again, design thinking is a human-centered approach for problem solving, and it makes just these types of activities a lot more user-centric. So again, you guys have learned 4 new steps to incorporate in your development process. You have your empathy map, where you're learning about what your user's thinking, feeling, and doing. Your as-is journey map. These are, again, the steps that the user needs to take in order to accomplish a goal. Ideating those solutions to alleviate your user's pain points. And then your to-be journey mapping, which is the journey that your user will be taking with your new solution. So open source is a space made for innovation. It's a really special place that we can turn a simple idea into a working product that anyone can use. And you guys made the first step in helping make the software even more user-friendly by just learning and thinking about your user. So thank you very, very much. We really hope that you guys took away some stuff from this workshop and you could utilize it in your development process. Again, thank you so much for participating and actively sharing your ideas. If you guys would like to contribute to a project similar to this in the future, Huda and I just created this form really quick so you guys can input your information, and we would be really happy to connect you to the right people at IBM if you did choose to, if you wanted to contribute to similar projects. We would also love to hear what y'all felt about this presentation. Did you walk away learning something new? We'd love to hear it. Please feel free to add us on LinkedIn or just DM us about your feedback or how you would like to join our open source community. Thanks all. I hope you have a great rest of your day.